I'm sure there are some of you who don't remember and never saw TV, especially if you're over 50. I guess that's about it. But the show was really great. It was one of those game shows on TV, very different than the ones we have today. And what would happen is 3 people would come in and be seated and claim to be the same person. So they'd come in and they'd stand up and say, "My name is Father John Gate." Next one would say, "My name is Father John Gate." Next one would say, "My name is Father John Gate." And they'd all be dressed in collars and everything else. And then the person who was playing the game got to ask them questions to try to figure out which one was the real Father John Gate. Right? With me so far. All right. And then what would happen is the person would try to guess which one it was, and so would the audience, all of us watching TV land, try to guess which one it was, and at the end, the guy who was the commentator would say, "Would the true Father John Gate please stand up?" And then all 3 of them would fake like they were going to stand. And then one would look at the other, and he would start to stand, and he would sit, and he'd go, "Oh, that's the one, that's the one." And finally one would stand up and say, "I am the real Father John Gate." Why does that come to my mind? Today's gospel and today's 2 readings, 3 readings, I picture them saying, "Who is the real sinner? Who is the real sinner? Will the true sinner please stand up?" We have first King David. King David, who lusts after a woman, knows that she's married to one of his officers in his army, but he has relations with her anyway, and then to cover it up, he sends that officer into battle at the front lines until everybody else can pull back so that he's killed. So that makes King David an adulterer and a murderer. So King David, he's in one seat. Then we have the woman in the gospel who they say is known to be a sinner. Whatever that means. Everybody in town knows that she is a sinner. And tongues wag, and fingers point, and snickers are given as she walks by. She's in seat number 3. And then in the middle seat is that middle reading, Paul the apostle, for 3 years hunted down Christians and slaughtered them, had them stoned to death, had them put to death in any way he could for 3 years. Paul's in the middle seat. 3 of them. Would the true sinner please stand up? What does it mean when we say that somebody is a sinner? What does that mean when we say sinner? In this case, I'd say that we make a distinction between sinner with a capital S and sinner with a small s. And we say, I ask all the judge saying, "Are we sinners?" And everybody says, "Oh yeah, we're all sinners." But we don't carry the title sinner. The neighbors don't say, "That sinful woman next door," "That sinful man who's in the desk next to me." But we do have people, though, who we call sinners. Just like Simon called her a sinner. And he pointed her out. Everybody knows she's a sinner. How is it that somebody gets an identity as a sinner, while the rest of the sinners seemingly aren't? They still remain seated when somebody says, "Will the true sinner please stand up?" They're still seated. Usually, sometimes, they are like Simon in today's gospel. They're the good guys, the holy guys, the holy guys. Simon was But nonetheless, he was there. He's one of the good guys. He wears the white hat. He's not one of them. The ones we don't want in our community church. What do you mean you gave her communion? What do you mean you gave him communion? She is a sinner. Will the true sinner please stand up? You see, in today's readings, besides what is in common with them as being sinners, what is more in common and what is being given to us is that God is forgiver. That in all those cases, no matter how grievous, like that of King David, who uses his power to abuse and take what he wants for himself, commits adultery, already has several wives, he takes somebody else's wife. He hasn't killed a righteous man, a murderer, an adulterer. God forgives him when David weeps and recognizes that he has sinned against God and against Uriah and his wife. And God forgives him. God welcomes him back. Later on, God will even speak of him as a man after my own heart. So David gets restored. The woman in today's gospel, she comes in weeping tears and showing her love and her commitment to Jesus. And he says that she who has loved much has been forgiven much. And that those who are forgiven little have little love. They are wimpy lovers. Their love is minuscule. They don't know how to love. And then Paul who persecutes the church and puts people to death, has them stoned, creates the first martyr of the church, even. He's forgiven. And he is anointed by the power of God's Spirit and becomes the person who almost single-handedly spread Christianity throughout the known world and thereby opened up salvation to all of us who sit in these pews and to people who are far away across the other side of the planet. He's the one who opened the doors beyond just the Jewish community. He who persecuted Christ. Today is about sinners who recognize their sin and receive God's forgiveness. You see, God, in his nature, forgives. He can't help himself. He can't control himself. He just has to forgive. The problem is, God never holds back forgiveness from any of us. But we block the forgiveness from us and remain in our sinfulness when we fail to recognize that we are sinners and that we are in need of his grace and forgiveness. And how do we do that? I say 3 ways I'll share with you. First of all, there's D and R. There's D and R. Denial is one. Denial. You remember all your fathers and sisters celebrating Father's Day? The first time that you begin to catch your child, your daughter or son doing something wrong. Did you do it? Did you take this out of the... No. Now tell me the truth. Did you take this out of there? No. Wasn't me. Never saw it before. Did I? We just deny it. Why? I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything at all. DNR, rationalization. That's when the kids become a little bit older. They're like pre-teens and teenagers. Come on, Dad. Like, everybody's doing it. There's nothing wrong with it. Right? Never heard that before? Everybody's doing it. What's wrong with it? Everything is on the teenagers. Come on. How can I work for? They're ripping people off. They are the most unjust and they are the most abusive company I've ever seen. They are stealing money from widows. And they have all this money, doesn't belong to them, so, I'm doing it justice if I take a few of these things from work. After all, they deserve it. Somebody should take from them instead of them taking from other people. I didn't do anything wrong. Rationalization wasn't anything wrong on my part. The last one, and perhaps the one that Simon is really guilty of, is one way to make sure that you're not a sinner with a big S is to make sure you point out somebody who's worse than you. Okay? You know what I mean? It's sort of like, hey, you're fine, man, just do a little here, a little there, I'm not like that guy down the street, beats his wife. He curse at mine every once in a while. Everybody does that, right? I'm not a big guy. So we point the finger at somebody else. Society does that. Society chooses certain people throughout its history and calls them sinners. They're the big S people. They're the losers. And in doing that, we exonerate ourselves. And what happens is we become puny hearts and mystical lovers. The only people who truly love greatly are those who recognize their own sinfulness and do not weigh it against somebody else's greater sinfulness. In fact, they usually weigh their greater sinfulness against those who are doing a better job. Such as Paul, who says, of all sinners, I am the greatest. Now, we'll look at Paul and say, he's not great. He's not the greatest of sinners. In his heart, he was. And those who have sinned much, those who are forgiven much, love much. And love, in the end, covers a multitude of sins. So, my sisters and brothers, what I am asking of you, I'm asking of me. I ask us all to stop denying or rationalizing or pointing the finger at those people out there in society calls the sinners with the big S's, and realize that in the eyes of God, there is no difference. There is simply the sinners who fail to ask and receive his forgiveness, and the sinners who ask and receive and become those